Okay, our next group of speakers are Rod Hamilton and David Nielsen. They are work for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation out of the Green Bay region, District 3, Region 3.
There we go.
Hi, my name is David Nielsen. I work with WSDOT. Rod Hamilton here is going to be helping me present there with the stuff we're looking at here. We both work up northeast region of the state of Wisconsin here. What we're looking at here is trying to show what we feel are three important components and trying to work with the local government where we could set up the parameters for a good design of an access. We could see the next slide, you can.
That toggle right on the front of the podium might work, Dave?
It's not switching.
It's switching them up here, but not.
I'm not sure what's going, why it's, it might be a presenter.
Here we go.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm not- But it's late, it was late and blocked. Oh, it's late. So if we go back one, there we go.
That was not changed.
There, okay.
What here is not going to change.
Okay, that's okay, yeah.
Okay, we're going to try to explain this based upon a local example or a recent example we've had out here. Just to give you an idea where we're at here. We've got Green Bay up to the north. We've got the Fox Valley sitting to the south of us here. We're down by the blue circle down there in the Fox Valley area. This whole thing came about when we had an issue with the intersection. With this intersection here of the county highway, which runs east-west, State Highway 55 north-south, we started seeing an increase in the crash rates out here, primarily due in part to increase of not only traffic out here, but in the upper right is a racetrack. They have races at least once a week, spring through fall, that required them to have 2 to 4 patrol officers out at this intersection when it was a two-way stop in order to get traffic to move through here. As we started looking at it, we realized that the final solution was going to be one of our first roundabouts we built up in our area. So we had a lot of interaction with the community as part of that. As looking at some of that stuff, other things started appearing to us that we were going to know were going to become problematic. One being here is we have an intersection here on a curve that was also acting as a shortcut so that people did not have to go through where we just spent a couple $1 million to keep them safe. The locals recognized that we did it, public information needs to come up, so the ultimate solution came as, especially as this area tended to grow out more, we'd be looking at eliminating that connection. In addition to just notify that area, the community had talked to us while we were looking at the design and saying this was an area that their community, they wanted to grow. They wanted us to become more developed out in this area. At that time, they were a township. Over the course of many years here, they are now a village. This is going to be one of their areas they want to focus a little bit on getting some developments in there. As part of getting any type of development in there, they were looking at how they could get other access, how they could circulate traffic. Some of the issues they ran into with that is they obviously had about an 80-acre parcel sitting in there, but they had extensive wetlands to the east of them and some residential development going in there already. So extending a system, 20 distance to the east was become very difficult. The logical place for the main connection, this was going to be down across from Highline Drive on the south end of their development. As we worked with them, we realized there's going to be a road system needed to the north, maybe a little less than desirable spacing, but we got them into that tangent section south of the roundabout. They're also looking to connect the system up to the south to connect into more local roads down in that direction. I'm going to hand this off to Rod here. He's got a few things he's going to talk about a little bit here too
Hopefully.
as we're competing here for who's moving slides.
Yeah.
What you see down there is not what's up here.
Yeah,
so
exactly, and it's not,
You gotta look up front there. So
I don't, but we don't have our,
your links.
the video is gone. That was in here, so. That we sent down here, so. Anyway, we'll just continue with, without the aerial video that we put together.
Just to let you know what's going on here, Rod had sat down as part of our presentation, he had gone down here with a drone and take us and use this area so you can get a better handle on what the area actually looks like.
And this is still not,
Touch down here.
yeah. Yeah, this is locked up now.
Is this what you want to get up there?
No,
Okay.
no, we're not even close.
What is it? Oh, okay.
So we're, yeah.
Facility laptop's locking up, I just close out the presentation, relaunch it.
Is this your presentation?
No, that's not the presentation.
Exit on that one.
So we have to,
Oh. Something's happened. Wait a second, there it is. All right. Okay. Okay, and you are
Nielsen,
Nielsen?
right there.
Okay.
Okay, let's see where, is that scrolling?
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's what's next.
Yep, oh yeah, but there should be some video. So anyway, right here, we have, looking kind of northerly from the development that's off onto the right-hand side here. This is the roundabout that Dave was talking about, our WIR racetrack over to the right. City of Kaukauna continuing up to the north, about a half a mile. Village and Village of Harrison and Town of Buchanan off to the left, kind of another larger urbanized area. And further to the south, there's getting towards another village that is about 2.5 miles further to the south. So there we go. And now here. Basically, what this video is going to be showing is kind of the area from our roundabout continuing south to our access road to the new development, and then kind of continuing to show some of the other areas that, as far as the part of the development. Like Dave mentioned, prior to the roundabout construction in 2006, there was a lot of police forces that had to be used for the special events that took place over at the racetrack. Typical Thursday nights would require 2 officers. After the roundabout construction, a normal event, we'd have basically, there'd be 0 officers required, and some of their larger special events might require 1 or 2 people at that intersection doing the traffic control. So if you want to go to the next. So this, and then go one more. There we go. So kind of an aerial view of, with a roundabout to our backside. development of the properties over on the left-hand side. There's some negotiations going on right now with property owner that's right there, just on the east side of Wisconsin 55. If you look, where is that? Sorry about that. Access to the development's gonna be right here. These two signs are 45, 55 mile an hour boundary area. So once this development goes in and we do our improvement to the roadway, eventually we'll be shifting those areas a little bit further to the south out of our tapers and the transition areas. Basically within the kind of the south, looking south and east, we have general office building and gas convenience store. That's kind of in the area of that farmstead. A little bit further west of west side of Highway 55, which would be picture right, is more of an office park. The main push for this development is a youth sports complex, which would be off on our left-hand side. Basically, it's going to be a four baseball field complex with some eventually putting in some indoor facilities also at that point. So this time, we'll go back to Dave.
As we talked about early on here, we felt that there's three things you really need to look at, with these communities and stuff along the lines to get them to, understand again what we're looking at here. One being is, what are we looking at to propose? Because obviously you can have a lot of different implications based upon what they're proposing. As Rod mentioned this one here, the uniqueness to it was developing a fairly big youth sports complex with baseball fields, soccer fields, eventually some indoor fields. Understanding what your existing traffic is out there and what your growth trends are out in that area. It could be anything from more traffic to different directions it's coming from, peak time stuff. And then again, the next step being is anywhere from just a traffic review all the way up to a full-blown TIA to understand again what some of your impacts are in these areas. In regards to the proposed development here, as we were talking about, really kind of refine what type of development we're looking at. Not always will you know exactly what that's going to be, but if you can get working with the case, start to be the township and it'll be the village here is, what are their goals for this area? What do they think it's going to be? And when we started this, it was around 2003 or 4. We're actually getting to the point now where we're getting final plans put in. So over this 14 years, it has changed a number of different times, and the expectations of what they were going to need to do has changed. Dependent upon that is your trip generation. Most times we use the IT trip generation. We do work with communities where if they have duplicated types of developments in the area, we will sometimes allow them to modify that based upon actual counts at other sites like that. This particular site, as Rod was mentioning here, in the upper right in that red area is the sports complex. Just to the left of it in the green is going to be a convenience gas station. The developer of this property actually owns a trucking firm. Part of that, this will be the location where a lot of his trucks actually fuel. To the south of that, or just below that, will be more warehousing and office along that lines. In the very upper left, which we're not currently looking at, other than knowing that's coming, is probably more retail, restaurant, stuff along that lines. There is something up there now which will actually enhance the need for that removal of that roadway. We would like them to be making those left turns up at the roundabout that we had invested a lot of money in as of today.
Then as far as the kind of the next step in this whole process would be the component number 2 that Dave talked about, the existing traffic and the growth trends. in the area. Let me just go back one here. Let's skip over there. Basically, just to kind of briefly go over some of the average daily traffic we've got in this region. The north leg, we have about 8,000 vehicles per day. East leg, again, towards kind of the rural area past the racetrack, about 4,000 ADT. South leg, 4,800. And then the west leg back towards the city of Appleton. And then again, Village of Harrison and Town of Buchanan, about 5,500 vehicles. That basically means we've got about approximately 11,000 vehicles entering the roundabout per day, peak hour of approximately 1,100. Kind of to give you an idea of the growth in this area, we've had from 2011 to 2017, traffic volumes have increased approximately 25% or about 4% per year, which we generally, talking with some of our program and planning people, we've been seeing more closer to the 1 to 2% in other areas, so this is a pretty quickly developing area relative to other spots. Population growth. Basically, we've had, back in 1991, from the north part of Highway 41, and then where it turns to go southbound again, Wisconsin 441 was constructed, again, opened in about 1991. At that point, just to, again, kind of just to give some background on the population growth, back in the 1990s, the population spread basically was down to that green line, and then we fast forward to 2018, we're down to the red line. So there's some significant growth, again, in even the populations of the area. Town of Harrison, which would be to the east a little bit, and that's more rural, but then mainly to the west and a little bit south. 1990, they had 3,100 population. 2018, we're all the way up to 12,000 as far as population. So approximately 4 times growth. Village of Sherwood, which is south of the proposed development, their population essentially tripled in the same time frame from 2011 or 1990 to 2018. Town of Buchanan, which is just into Outagamie County, County Trunk Highway KK, again, the east-west road at the roundabout, that's the Calumet and Outagamie County line. Town of Buchanan, their population nearly doubled. And a slight increase with the city of Kaukauna just to the north. So, okay, next. That takes us to kind of the component 3 as far as the traffic review and a study of this area. One thing in Wisconsin, similar to most other states, we use the Institute of Traffic Engineers Trip Generation Manual, 10th edition. And one thing that we always ask of the developers and some of the information we get from them is to provide as much detailed information they can as far as the actual development. Trying to stay away from just some general terms or general type of developments to get more specific. As part of that analysis, and we also look at the we use it as Wisconsin Department of Transportation traffic analysis guidelines dated May of 2017, which is the current edition. And that guideline that was kind of basically developed out of our southeast region in Milwaukee several years ago and then implemented statewide. That's one of the requirements of all of our consultants to be certified with that document and then also using it as far as presenting the type of the data to us. After, the initial trip generation study helps us determine if a full traffic impact analysis is required, which is another step, much more involved, looking at future traffic volumes and future development that we might be getting from by us as East Central Regional Planning Commission and kind of looking bigger scope of the whole area. One of our requirements is if we have if the development will produce between 100 and 500 driveway trips in the peak hour, we have the option to require either abbreviated study and kind of skipping the full TIA. So in this case, we kind of decided to go ahead and we met with the developer, the village, and discussed as far as what we were thinking as far as left turn lanes, right turn lanes for the development entryway. They were in agreement with that, so decided we would kind of skip that full TIA. So, and then Dave's going to kind of finalize with some of the actual design. What was it? The top. There we go again. Yeah. I do not know which one. Right there, the top one right there. Yep.
Is there any reason why we're not getting our screens going? Okay, here we go, here we go. I'm not touching anything again. As Rod mentioned, after we got a lot of data in from our consultant that was working on this, through the village themselves, we did go down and meet with them. As part of that, getting them to understand, even Jeff had mentioned, we do have issues when we get to somebody's, this is a village, but fairly new incorporated. They don't have a lot of staff on hand that understand some of the issues that will be coming up. So we went down there to try to help not only educate them, but to educate ourselves on what they were looking for out in this area. Once we had that conversation, explained to them the concerns we had with the amount of traffic they got. They're gonna obviously have some times out here where it's extremely busy. When they start holding baseball tournaments and they have school functions out here and stuff along that lines. We started indicating to them that, our goal out here was to make sure this remains safe for the long run. We felt that having a left turn lane to come in here, while not high on a warrant end, probably was something due to some of the unusual circumstances, a good idea. Once that was explained to them, they were fully on board. They agreed with all of that. So that's how we ended up with a left turn lane into this. The corollary right turn lane coming into this was extended in length, again, due to knowing that this particular convenience market probably was going to see a lot of trucking traffic. Rod had mentioned one of the things that went with this also now is you have a roundabout to the north here. You're going to have some lane changes, stuff here. The actual speed limit reduction was up towards the north end of this. That will get relocated further south to comply with whatever else the other stuff that's going on out here. But I think the key was with this was the communication back and forth. Rod and I went down there to meet with them. Previous to that, the gentleman that had his position work with TIAs, we met with him about 6 years ago. And the original person that did the TIA work in our office, Scott Nelson, and I went down there about 10 years ago. But each time things were morphing and we had new players at one point the town, now the village is in, and getting the understanding of what needs to be done in these type of circumstances. So I think that the takeaway again a lot was a lot of interaction with them. And again, having a community that was concerned. They wanted to make this work. They don't want these developments to occur and immediately start having issues where things are failing and they're scrambling to find ways to fix it. So that is the end of our presentation. I don't know if anyone's got any questions, but if they do, we can take those. Yes?
With these developments coming in, you have impact fees, right?
Okay. No, impact fees, no.
No impact fees?
No.
Okay.
What we do in this
Who
situation.
pays for the improvement of the road? DOT?
In this situation here, this is a new public street for them to put in. They are gonna fund the entire project for the turn lanes on the state highway, and the local road system is being funded through the town. or a village at this point, I'm sorry.
Yeah, in Florida, we have impact fees. So development pays, some counties have mobility fees depending on how far they are from, downtown area, they pay less. There are some counties, they have, they pay their proportionate fair share.
Right.
And based on those impact fees, we, locals improve the road to accommodate for those additional traffics that they're generating.
Sure. And that would be, in some of our instances, an easier way to do it. What we rely upon now, this one's fairly clean in that they're the only development area. Many times you'll get where 3 quadrants are developed, the 4th quadrant now develops, and we need a bunch of stuff to happen. The 4th quadrant, and the way we do it, ends up being probably penalized in that they may be subsidizing a lot of that unless their local government is willing to split up and assess back to the other quadrants.
And do you have any standards for these roads that you want them to function at? Do you, any target level of service? When do you reach capacity at these roads?
Well, we do have, our statewide standards for all of our design. We don't specify for particular developments what they're going to do. We just follow the same thing, whether it's our design, a local's design, or anything else. I don't know exactly what that number is off the top of my head, but
Okay, thank you.
in the back.
You mentioned at one of your sites a trucking company was going in. I was just wondering if you implemented any design or access management treatments that were maybe different than you normally would to accommodate trucks.
Yeah, and on this site, there will be no trucking on this particular site. We just know that the owner of the site owns a trucking company. And as part of, I think, the bigger developer agreements going on in here that we're not necessarily privy to and don't need to be always, is that one of the agreements is his truck will probably fuel at this particular, service station a lot. So it was primarily just, the trucks entering and exiting. The turn lane, the right turn lane coming in got lengthened. The left turn lane coming in already had a lot of length just because of geometry.
Okay, I'd like to thank Rod and Dave. So,
And hopefully we'll take the gremlins from the machine with us.